Yeah.
Those who survive.
I'll see you tonight.
5:15 Sunday morning. The life of another Central New York teenager is lost.
Crashed his father's Ferrari while driving drunk.
He is dead forever. And you are responsible.
I didn't do this on purpose. It was an accident. I would literally give anything to go back and change that.
Pretty much fooled my mother. My mother didn't know what was going on. She thought I was a good kid.
My parents were always, concerned, what I was doing and where I was going and who I was with, but they never thought it was a problem, because I wasn't getting into trouble. They never knew how severe it was, or I didn't know how severe it was.
My mom was very clueless. Actually, I'm going to be truthful, it was very easy to fool my mom.
I was very shocked. I had no idea.
As parents, we can no longer afford to be clueless about our teens drinking and using other drugs. The price is too high. The consequences are too severe. It doesn't matter where or how we live, or if our families are rich or poor. Every teen struggles with decisions about drugs and alcohol.
I was at a party and I was drinking. I was already drunk and I bought some pills while I was drinking. I took 3 pills of methadone and started to feel really sick. And I went home and I told my friend to bring me home because I wasn't feeling well. And then I passed out on my bed and went into a coma for a week.
I was smoking 1 minute. The next minute, I could say, I started beating people up for no reason. And they called the cops. The cops took it as a robbery. And they locked me up.
It was a Friday night. There was a big football game. And my friends and I decided that we needed to go to the game drunk. Along the way, we had called a friend of an older brother, and he drove one of us over to Auburn to get a bottle of vodka that we would share between 4 of us. The last thing I remember is sitting on the picnic bench, and I remember falling off and hitting my head, and I was unconscious for 7.5 hours after that. I woke up in a hospital bed, wet, dirty, with my parents sitting next to me, crying, asking questions, and truthfully, I didn't have any answers.
It was absolutely horrible. I never thought, up until that point, I never thought it was that big of a deal. And then it was just really, really bad. I got suspended for the rest of the year from school. I had to go home. It was really shameful, cost a lot of money, just definitely was not worth it.
I was drinking this one night, when I drank like a bottle of gin, and I was walking from my house all the way to Buckley Road. We met up with this boy that I met on MySpace, and I decided to meet up with him. So then when we met up with him, I was like pretty drunk. And so I started, I don't know, he just took advantage of me very badly. And I ended up in the ICU, and it was pretty bad. I was in there for like a day and a half.
The first place teens learn about drinking is in their home. It's the #1 place where they get alcohol and drugs. We teach them by our words and actions. What do they see and hear at home?
As far as partying goes, I've been to a lot of them. I've actually had parents at them with me before serving alcohol to underage kids.
The kids that smoke weed and drink alcohol, they tell me and my other friends that
their parents allow it.
There are increasingly dangerous and life-changing consequences to early drinking and drug use.
Alcohol use has immediate impact in terms of health risks and also immediate and long-term impact on learning and memory for adolescents, and it diminishes their ability to recall information, shows up in test scores, it shows up in their ability to work cooperatively with others, and has a significant impact in terms of long-range growth. And that brain continues to mature until about age 20. And so it's really critical to consider that when students are drinking.
I've been in the emergency room for 23 years, and every Friday and Saturday night I see at least one car accident, one alcohol poisoning in a teenager or an underage person. I see a lot of alcohol poisoning and hypothermia, and so they come in cold or improperly dressed. And I've seen deaths. I've had people I've had to admit to the hospital because they were unconscious. Countless traumas.
You know, one of the other major things that we see with young people and alcohol is the kind of the macho factor that comes out with young men when they're drinking. And particularly when they're young, they're inexperienced, they find themselves into situations where physical force becomes an option for them, where it normally wouldn't be.
You know, I think the most important thing that parents need to know is how quickly things can change and change for the worse. Just a split decision to get behind the wheel of the car when an underage person has had too much to drink can wipe out their life, the lives of someone they love in the vehicle with them, the lives of maybe a complete stranger, can change their life forever. They have to live with a lifetime of heartache. They have legal expenses. They could possibly go to jail. Anytime an adult is involved in a situation where a minor is consuming alcohol, you are exposing yourself to tremendous potential legal liability. You could be sued if the child does something negligent, injures someone, hurts themselves. You could be sued for that. You could lose potentially a tremendous amount of money. You could be prosecuted if you knowingly provide alcohol to an underage person.
Oftentimes people don't realize, young people don't realize the impact is on their family. You know, just as in any other drinking, oftentimes people think it doesn't affect anyone but me. When we start speaking of young people, there are so many ways that it impacts a larger family. First of all, most parents' hopes and dreams aren't that, well, yay, when my kid grows up, I want them to have alcohol or drug problems. So in one manner that it affects the hopes and dreams in that family. On a more day-to-day basis, it brings in a kind of chaos.
Caitlin was a very smiling, loving person, one who loved everyone. The night Caitlin went to stay at a friend's house, I spoke with her. She said they were staying there. About 8:30 in the morning, I received a knock on the door, and it was 2 police officers. And I had this funny feeling it might be something bad, but I waited for them to speak. And they did tell me there had been a terrible accident.
It's one of the hardest things in the world to have to knock on a parent's door and see the look on their face when they see the uniformed officers standing there, sometimes with a neighbor, sometimes with a clergyman, telling them they know the second that person comes to the door that it's happened to somebody in their family.
But then the police officers came in and I asked them, please take me to the hospital so I could be with her. And they told me that she died. And there was a party I found out later. They both were drinking at this party. But then again, everyone was drinking at that party. And they did leave. And I'm not too sure how it actually happened. But all I know is that the speed limit was 35 and the driver was going 60. And they hit a telephone pole. And I thank God for Caitlin wearing her seatbelt because her face was as beautiful as ever when I saw her. There wasn't a mark on her face. but she instantly died.
I actually had an experience at 11 years old where my best friend died from, he was drinking and he went out on an ATV, flipped over, and he was immediately killed.
And often people read the paper and they hear of a tragedy, and the first thing people say is, what were they thinking? And they were not, because you can't think. You can't think when you drink. So the biggest realization for me has been that insecurity of thinking you've done a very good job raising your son, teaching him right from wrong. He had great ethics, he had great morals, he had a very driven personality to succeed, to perhaps be a pilot at the United States Air Force Academy. And how could this have happened? How could he have made this decision that evening? How could all of these highly educated, goal-driven teenagers made this decision? And that is the risk that teenagers take when they are not in control of their decision-making and they're not aware of their ethics, their morals, their rules. It's extremely dangerous.
I served 2 years in New York State Prison and served a 3rd year on parole. I'll live with the accident until they put me in the ground. That doesn't go away.
There are many solutions to this problem. Let's be creative and use our best thinking. There are strategies that parents are using that work.
You listen a great deal. You have a relationship with your kids. You never give up. You always seek them out even when there are hard times and when there are problems in the relationship.
You have to be involved. You can never be too involved.
I try to raise my kids a lot different than what I was when I was coming up. That's my goal, to keep my kids on the straight and narrow path, so that way they can teach their kids, because this is a different generation now. We go to the library together and we play bocce together.
Watch your kids. You only get one shot, and when they're gone, you can't do anything about it.
We need to say no again and again. If we don't, they will hear that it's okay.
I think the best way to keep your kids safe is to know where they are and who they're with and what they're doing, and help them make connections, whether it's to sports or an interest, a club or an activity, and really knowing the kids that they're hanging out with. And I think when I see something in the paper, I can use it as a teachable moment to open up the discussion with my own children about the dangers of drinking.
We have some sort of guidelines that we follow when we have a party. We always make sure there's 2 adults in the house, whether it's myself and my husband, or a friend comes to join me if he's out of town, for example. We also answer the door. We greet the kids at the door. We confiscate any bottles, cans, items like that. We also frequently wander through so that they know we're there and they know we're supervising. We try to provide some sort of activity, whether it's dancing or ping pong or things for the kids to do besides just hang out.
We're very clear on the expectations. We do have talks about his friends. He seems open enough to share with us various things that his friends experience and what they share with him. I feel comfortable about that.
My wife and I are the most important role models in our children's lives, and it's really important for us to set a good example, to make sure that although our words are really important, that we're telling them that drinking is not okay, and living a clean lifestyle is really critical and important. We got to make sure that we're living that first, because they see, they hear, they touch, they taste everything that's going on in our lives, and that's the best example and the best way that we can really help them make good decisions.
Let's not abandon our teens to a world that is eager to sell them an alcoholic or drug high as a solution. Let's give them something better: unconditional love, clear, practical rules, and guidance. Let's take the high road. For more information, contact Prevention Network at 471-1359 or online at PreventionNetworkCNY.org.